You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. I have one really great piece of advice for you, no matter where you are this evening. If you are in the mood to commit some crimes, you wake up, you got a little bit of a rebellious streak in you, you think, I'm done playing by the rules, I'm bad to the bone, I've decided it's time to cast away the life of decent civility, I'm going to commit some crimes. Do not commit crimes that leave very, very obvious paper trails. No one, and I mean no one that we're covering tonight, has paid attention to that golden rule. No one. Allow me to just dig right in. Senator Tammy Duckworth's staffer caught posing as a lawyer. Now, not like I've chosen to represent myself in court. No, not like you're, in a costume contest and you've dressed up as a Southern lawyer. I mean, really, Your Honor. No. A Tammy Duckworth staffer posed as a lawyer for an illegal alien, which was deported 4 times and had a DUI conviction. So again, not even like you're repping Mother Teresa. No, here's the story I believe that Will Cain broke earlier today.
This member of Congresswoman Tammy Duckworth's office, appearing to pose as a lawyer in an attempt to free an illegal immigrant from ICE custody. The DHS posting the video on X saying this Duckworth staff member allegedly claimed to be the lawyer of a 40-year-old illegal immigrant who had been deported to Mexico 4 times and had DUI conviction in order to seek his release from custody. He accomplished this by falsifying an official Department of Homeland Security form. We look forward to a response from Senator Duckworth. And then there's former chief of staff to California Governor Gavin Newsom.
Oh, that's right. We didn't get to cover this yesterday. There's even more fraud to dig into. So not only are certain individuals over in the Duckworth side of things, fraudulently pretending to be lawyers, the former chief of staff for California Governor Gavin Newsom made the brilliant decision, the most incredibly brilliant decision, to get out there and lead a scheme to siphon over $1 million from dormant campaign funds of former Health Secretary Xavier Becerra via fake consulting fees, filed fraudulent tax forms, claiming business losses, essentially just getting out there and saying, hey, I need all of these, forms and fees to be paid out. So we're out there doing some really smart things via fraud over on the former chief of staff for the governor of California. We'll get back to Gavin in a second. He's having a real rough one. We got to go over to Congressman Eric Swalwell. Representative Eric Swalwell of California. He's in some hot water that's really not unfamiliar. And when I say it's not really unfamiliar, we've seen a number of mortgage fraud or bank fraud cases that all play out the same way. So before we even begin with Eric Swalwell here, let's break down the rules. When you sit down to apply for a mortgage, there are a couple of things that they ask you. For example, they ask you, hey, is this home your primary home or your principal home, i.e. where you're living? Is it an investment property? Is it a rental property? Or is it a secondary, like a vacation home? Is it a timeshare situation? What's going on here? And that matters because banks and mortgage companies determine the level of risk it poses for you to or not to pay off that home based on the answers that you provide. And then that changes in a minor fashion, and sometimes a major fashion, the percentage of the interest rate that you will pay in addition to all kinds of other fees, because the state has to get involved too. If you're in Illinois, you want to own a home in Indiana, Indiana might take a little something off the top because, hey, you can't do this whole best of both worlds Hannah Montana nonsense. And so you, on paper, with bright pen, have to write down, this is my primary home. You write that on the paper. Well, that's what Eric Swalwell did. According to federal housing regulator Bill Pulte, he referred Democrat Representative Eric Swalwell to the Justice Department earlier today for criminal prosecution over mortgage fraud. Now, you say, wow, this looks like another political prosecution by the Trump administration. Hang on. According to NBC News, Pulte alleges that Swalwell, a Democrat congressman representing a district in California, took out millions of dollars worth of mortgage loans based on his declaring his primary residence as Washington, D.C. Now, Eric Swalwell, again, is a representative from California. California, D.C. Yeah, you can't just get out there and claim those are the same thing. They're 2,700 miles apart. Now, the article that NBC wrote, the coverage that they put out there says, well, he's alleging this. As far as Bill Pulte's concerned, he's just not to insult the man, he's kind of just a glorified file cabinet reader. I mean, that's really all the man does. More power to him. What he does is he gets out there and he digs through documents relating to financial, home mortgages, housing, and then scans to make sure that they are legally appropriate and correct, because there's a lot of fraud in the mortgage system. Now, here's where things get really fun. A public deed of trust for Swalwell's DC home at 209 Street, dated April 22nd, 2022, confirms that the property is designated as his principal residence as a condition of the loan. So in exchange for getting a loan at a reduced rate, he said, this is my primary, it's my principal. So therefore, Pulte is alleging not only that Swalwell made misleading statements during the purchase, he also refinanced the home and made the same mistake again. So he not only wrote primary on the documents once, when it was time to refinance the home, Swalwell got out and he wrote primary on the document yet again. And amazingly, and this is the interesting thing, because you have a big campaign statement that's already come out from Swalwell, and funnily enough, Adam Schiff, who's facing similar allegations at the moment. And he's come out and said that, this is political targeting, as the most vocal critic of Donald Trump over the last decade, and as the only person who still has a surviving lawsuit against him. Well, the only thing I'm surprised about is that it took this long for him to come after me. And then he says, like James Comey and John Bolton, Adam Schiff and Lisa Cook, Letitia James, and dozens more to come. I refuse to live in fear in what was once, I love this, what was once the freest country in the whole darn world. Wow. Isn't that just so brave and super duper wonderful? Well, there's a little bit of an issue with this. Remember, he made the decision to, on his congressional records, list his hometown as Livermore, California. And that's not just hometown as in where he grew up as a boy. Hometown, that's where his campaign is based out of. Livermore, California. On the documents, which again, if you're listening to the radio, I'm sorry, you can see this on the live stream. You can see exactly where he puts on the deed of trust. This is his principal residence. In the financial disclosure report, again, on screen for those who are watching not via the radio or the podcast side, in 2024, he listed very specifically when he refinanced in documentation millions of dollars in liability that he had listed in one place, his hometown in California, and then his principal residence in DC. So he's trying to claim two primary residences at the same time, and unless he's secretly an evil twin named Bob, no, that ain't happening. It's not happening. When you commit mortgage fraud, the paper remains. The files are on the record. And when Pulte or your local bank officer or an inspector general in your state, which we're going to get into here in a second with somebody else, when you start making bad decisions and you put those on paper, amazingly, you can close the book, you can put it away for 20, 30, 40 years. When you get out the book, amazing, it still says primary residence. We saw this with Letitia James, that being classified as bank fraud in her case because she was defrauding the bank. We saw this with Adam Schiff when he misrepresented a Maryland property status for favorable mortgage insurance terms. In this allegation coming out in July of 2025, Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve governor, mortgage fraud, designated a Georgia and a Michigan home as primary residences to secure multiple favorable loans. Radio crew, we have to send you to commercial break. We're going to continue on the live stream. No commercials there. Just an unmitigated stream of stupid people. Don't commit mortgage fraud while we're gone. It's the Tony Kinnett cast. It's frustrating. It's so easy not to commit mortgage fraud. And, just because it's funny, be careful when you wish for anyone who commits a crime to get punished, like Eric Swalwell did a couple of years ago. Roll the clip.
If you're not going to follow the law, it's time for people to start having consequences. For far too long, we've allowed this president and his underlings to continue to obstruct. And when we lose the rule of law in America, it's not just a concept, it's everything. It allows free markets, free ideas, and a freedom to dream. And we don't want to look like countries that don't have a rule.
Oh, okay. That's real special. Consequences. Producer Nick?
I just wish I owned one residence, let alone enough residents to commit mortgage fraud.
I really just don't have any at all sympathy for those who are claiming that affordability is terrible for Americans right now, and this is all
exactly.
We got to keep the government closed while
cheaper housing.
Yeah, while you're racking up secondary and tertiary homes, whether you're Bernie Sanders with his many mansions in Vermont, or whether you're Letitia James with her Virginia summer home, or whether you're the goober Swalwell or Adam Schiff with your East Coast residences. Make bad decisions. I just don't.
Yeah. When you exit your seventh home and, come to me and say, oh, it's the housing crisis. We need more affordable housing. How about you go back into the fifth and be quiet for a while?
Not bad. Now, here we go. The next case for the day. Governor Gavin Newsom's office has been caught in California giving over 17,000 commercial driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. Right after Gavin Newsom said they weren't doing any of that and they were, following federal law and policy. Well, now the California DMV or the BMV, whatever it is, you know what I mean, the Motor Vehicle Agency for California has officially announced, the DMV for them, that they have unlawfully issued 17,000 licenses to migrant drivers. That is according to the original report from Jenny Terre from the Daily Wire. And actually, we have that up for the B-roll as well because we tried to come prepared this evening. So originally, when some of the accusations came out a couple of weeks ago that Newsom's office in California had been serving up smiles and driver's licenses for illegals on a mass scale, he said lies. Cosplay Christie and Road Rules Duffy can't keep their story straight. Here are the facts. Non-citizens are eligible for CDLs. Christy and Sean should know that. Yeah, non-citizens who are here on work visas are eligible for CDLs. Illegal immigrants are not. Guys, you do not have to be an Indianapolis Colts fan to get into Lucas Oil Stadium, but you do have to buy a ticket when you attend an NFL game. You don't have to be a citizen of the United States in order to work here, but you do need a ticket to enter. This is not difficult. But again, they can't even handle not committing mortgage fraud in file cabineted documents. So what makes you think that they're going to suddenly start paying attention to very basic civic law and understanding? It gets better because Gavin Newsom's office doesn't know when to stop. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy comes out before everyone and says, hey, look, the California governor and his state were caught red-handed after weeks of claiming they did nothing wrong. Now that we've exposed their lies, 17,000 illegally issued trucking licenses are being revoked. How do they know that specific number? California finally admitted it through their DMV. He said, quote, this is just the beginning. California must revoke every illegally issued CDL or I will pull $160 million in federal funds. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. Either you govern or you don't. You don't get a dime if you're breaking the law. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. More of Gavin's folly here up in a couple of seconds. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
When last we left off, not only is Representative Eric Swalwell, not only are Democrat congressional staffers and Gavin Newsom staff officers getting caught in various forms of fraud from here to, well, Sacramento or on the East Coast, wherever they've decided to list their illegal primary residence. Now, Gavin Newsom has taken the official admission of the California DMV, where they said, yeah, we gave 17,000 commercial driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. Secretary Sean Duffy said, look, A, you can't do that. It's against the law. B, not only can you not do that at being against the law, it also completely wrecks E-Verify and other work labor laws in the United States, not just transportation ones. Number 3, it's morally bankrupt because we've seen a number of individuals, red and yellow, black and white, getting in various car accidents on the road because they cannot speak English. They do not know U.S. road laws. Again, one of the worst, most disgusting traffic accidents that we have seen so far come from individuals making U-turns where you shouldn't, driving down the wrong side of the road entirely, and then when they commit mass accidents, they get out of the vehicle acting like nothing is wrong whatsoever, which is an assimilation issue. So Gavin Newsom, at this point, you should say, look, I know we're all interested in the politics and the optics, but it is important that we keep American citizens safe on the road. It's important that we make sure that our transportation, California does a lot of industry. Maybe they do it correctly. Maybe they try to, reinforce safety standards. I thought liberals were all about safety. No. They get out and again, all of this is done on X because we live in the age of children. And so all of the former press statements and newspaper articles have become posts made in 15 seconds or less that Wendy's is likely to comment underneath. Wild times indeed. So Gavin Newsom's press office releases a statement where he claims, quote, once again, the Sean Road Rules Duffy fails to share the truth, spreading easily disproven falsehoods in a sad and desperate attempt to please his dear leader. He did, however, finally acknowledge the federal government issued these drivers work permits. So the actual document shared supposedly shows a series of lies in which the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, said that the federal government said you need to cancel those licenses. And Newsom tries to claim, well, actually, they were withdrawn due to inconsistencies with California law, which just means that Gavin Newsom admitted that giving those driver's licenses not only violated federal law, but also violated state law. Well done. Stellar stuff. Absolutely incredible. It gets worse from there. He then suggests that CA licensed CDL holders, so California licensed semi-truck drivers, are involved in fatal crashes at a rate far below the national average. Texas has a 50% higher rate of fatal crashes than California. Okay, let's talk very, very briefly here about this weird mystical myth of percentages when we talk about crimes involving illegal immigrants. We can talk about crimes inside the United States about U.S. citizens because they are supposed to be here. They have a right to be here. If there is someone, let's say from Afghanistan, and they come into the country illegally and they commit a terrorist attack, it's not just another crime amid the books. Oh, you're far more likely to be mugged in Indianapolis than you are to be the victim of a radical Islamist terrorist attack. Okay, Jan, the illegal immigrant was not supposed to be here in the first place. They're not. The United States has processes in place that measure accountability for citizens who commit crimes and those whose jurisdiction failed as a result. Illegal immigrants, they're not here where they're supposed to be. There's not a series of accountability options that can be taken, and they haven't even been paying into the same system in the same way in the first place. So after this blistering upheaval, the last moment comes in. For the last time this evening, guys, I'm lying. It's not going to be the last time. We still have to get through Chicago public schools. If you are going to commit crimes, do not commit crimes in a way that is easily measured on paper. Secretary Sean Duffy posts at least 8 variations of the kinds of fraud that were committed by illegal immigrants in California that were then rubber stamped with approval by the state of California under Gavin Newsom's leadership. Essentially, U.S. work authorizations that would have been issued from the federal government were set to expire sooner, were set for different people, were not allowed to be given to illegal immigrants in the first place, required some standard of learning and understanding in a comprehensive fashion, English and the rules of the road. And California is just over there like lizard, stamping every single illegal immigrant driver's license test okay. So that's Gavin Newsom's fraud. Incredible stuff. It never ends, not even for a second. Chicago Public Schools has been caught in $7.7 million of teaching kids how to read, teaching kids how to do math. Absolutely not. Chicago Public Schools has been caught using $7.7 million in 1 year of their taxpayer-funded budget for personal travel expenses. Personal travel expenses. I don't even want to be the guy that has to break this down with you. This is from, I believe, the ABC 7 affiliate in Chicago. Check it out.
Now, here comes.
Get this clip all lined up because it really is just, again, unnecessary. I think that she points out one of the key issues in the Chicago public school fraud that boils down to essentially trips to Haiti and Hawaii, beach trips. We don't have the particular clip ready just yet. Gotcha. We'll get it for you in a couple of minutes here because it really is some rough stuff. From the Chicago Tribune, however, spas, suites, safaris, and shopping. Who wouldn't want to work at Chicago Public Schools? Chicago Public Schools, where 82% graduate. That's pretty good. 60% of Chicago's high schoolers are not proficient in English. They cannot read. 75% of Chicago students are not proficient in math. I'm just saying, I'm going to make the case for everyone out there that if you make the decision to commit fraud, do not do so in the place where everyone can see.
Terrell, the new report from the Office of Inspector General points to what it calls questionable excessive spending on overnight trips for CPS employees, including staff excursions to places like Egypt, Finland, and South Africa. This morning, the oversight body Watchdog urging Chicago Public Schools to reform its travel policies after the Office of Inspector General found CPS travel expenditures surged to $7.7 million last year. That's more than double what the district spent 5 years prior before the pandemic.
I mean, I would certainly hope so. I'm sorry, wait a minute. So first of all, the Inspector General's report is, hey, can you get the personal travel budget down just a little bit? You spent $7.7 million sending your staff on personal trips to Egypt and South Africa and other fun buckets of joyous destinations.
The report states CPS staffers repeatedly exceeded spending limits and expensed trips and activities without approval, including a professional development conference in Las Vegas that more than 600 employees attended between
Oh, there's a big surprise.
in 2022 and 2024, spending more than $1.5 million in district dollars. Nearly 90% of attendees stayed in hotels exceeding CPS spending limits.
That's the other thing I was going to ask. You're supposed to follow a certain series of rules when you do spend corporate money, and they're just out there going, the Bellagio? Yeah, rent the whole floor. Excellent. Radio crew, we have to send you over to the commercial. Try not to commit any fraud in Chicago Public Schools. While you guys are on break either, we're going to continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett cast. So far, fraud-free.
The Watchdog Group also found about 40% of all conference attendees traveled without receiving approval.
Okay, here's a question that I have for the boys, girls, and squirrels at home. If you don't get approval for the trip, why is the school still paying for it? If I go buy a camel, not a pack of camels, if I go buy a camel for the studio. And I say, you know what? Listen, Kate, Rob, what I really need is a studio camel. And I'm not asking for permission. I've already bought it. I'm going to expense it. It's a 2-humper, really nice. Spits to the southeast. Could probably go without drinking 7 or 8 days. Great camel. Named him Larry. I'm going to charge this to the company. They would go, no, I hope you look forward to the feeding, caring, and paying of your brand new Larry the Camel. And that would be correct. Chicago, I know I didn't get approval to go to this really exciting Tahiti beach trip. And they're like, well, yeah, we didn't give you approval for that, but we'll pay it anyway. Then that's approved. Incredible. Again, you do not have to commit flagrant fraud, and you do not have to commit so in records that will be reviewed and categorized and are becoming more easily categorized, I should say, as time goes on. With the advent of AI and all of these records being put into computerized systems where they are now kept track of, and you see all of the little beautiful populated pie charts of all of the various kinds of spending in a district or in a congressional office or in a staff member's office or on your nursing license. When the books come out before the board, it becomes very clear very quickly if you committed bank fraud, mortgage fraud, wire fraud, whatever. I just cannot bring myself to care as much when the Senate includes a provision in the continuing resolution that says, hey, we are going to allow the 8 senators who were targeted by Arctic frost by the FBI to sue the federal government for those illegal activities. You say, oh, this is clearly evidence of blatant Republican corruption. How could they do something so awful like this? Meanwhile, mortgage fraud and bank fraud just may be the favorite sports of half of the party's political groups. I don't even know then when you have the inspector general make their official announcement or recommendation is, can you try to cut back a little bit? And the people in Chicago will just vote them right on through. There's a major campaign right now. Call your local alderman. After you finish sacrificing goats to Baal, call your local alderman. See if they can stop the shooting long enough to vote more money to the school district. Otherwise, the Chicago Teacher School Union ain't gonna get paid. I mean, who's gonna pay for their trip to South Africa? Okay, well, Chicago Public Schools is gonna pay for it. But who's gonna pay for, well, I guess the SNAP benefits when they get home. Okay, well, who's gonna get them extra money for their second principal residence in Virginia, Maryland Beach? It's a special time to be in politics. It really is. The lack of, what would it be, self-awareness? The lack of self-awareness in some of these issues, because again, Adam Schiff came out in defense of Eric Swalwell, calling this another meritless attack on one of Donald Trump's most effective opponents, another terrible abuse of the DOJ, another example of the president ignoring the affordability crisis and focusing on his personal grievances. Dude, you have a fraudulent property in Maryland. Incredible. We're going to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot more. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
I've got some good news for you. The next instance of fraud is not like mortgage, financial, bank fraud. Instead, it's you're fraudulently pretending to be intelligent. You have defrauded God on being a person with a pulse and theoretically some brainwaves. I got to tell you, maybe at this point, I would say whoever your teachers were in the Democrat Party and your parents should be receiving sympathy cards annually on your birthday. Case in point, the Democrats are now bragging based on the file dump of Epstein emails, documents, greeting cards, and whatnot. They are now suggesting that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein are somehow linked to the point where Jeffrey Epstein calling Donald Trump a very, very bad, awful person is proof that Donald Trump is a very, very bad and awful person. So the Democrats today shared an email that says, quote, newly released emails show Jeffrey Epstein thought Trump was one of the worst people he knew, with, quote, not one decent cell in his body. He went on to describe Trump with one word: dangerous. Ooh, very, very exciting stuff. There is a slight problem to this particular story. That would be that Jeffrey Epstein is the bad guy pedophile. If the bad guy pedophile, says, hey, this Donald Trump guy is a really bad guy, why does... I'm confused. Why does that then make Trump a bad guy? Why are we taking the word of the pedophile, rapist, trafficker man? Do they know how awkward this sounds? Do we actually have this tweet? We do here. Pull it up. Look at this thing. They share the email. They're like, Jeffrey Epstein thinks Donald Trump is a really bad person. Wow. Epstein said Trump is dangerous. O.J. Simpson blocked me on social media after I once dunked on him for talking about crime after, he murdered his wife. And him blocking me, O.J. Simpson, before he passed away, that was a badge of honor. I was thrilled to be blocked by O.J. Simpson. I do not care for your booze. I have seen what makes you people cheer. The Democrats, I'm sorry, this isn't like a one-off thing. They did this all day. They made a graphic. They had some intern make a graphic. Democrats, quote, I've met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump. Jeffrey Epstein in 2017 on Donald Trump. And then they quoted this just like, oh, is this some kind of a revelation? Now, they say this is a quote from 2017. They deleted this. This is no longer up on social media. They also tried to share an email claiming, new documents show Donald Trump spent Thanksgiving with Jeffrey Epstein in 2017. At that time, Trump was already president and Epstein already a convicted sex offender. So at the same time that Jeffrey's in emails saying Trump's like the worst person ever, he went to Thanksgiving with Trump and they were buddies and pals again. Now, the reason they have since deleted this is, I don't know if you guys are aware, we kind of know where the president is at all times. This is something that we're very well aware of. We also know the visitors that are brought over to the White House for the White House Thanksgiving. We know where the president is. The president was not near Jeffrey Epstein on that 2017 Thanksgiving at all. So they've deleted this because they're idiots. What we have garnered from these emails, these informations, is that Jeffrey Epstein, the only dirt, quote unquote, that he had on Donald Trump is that Donald Trump stooped Stormy Daniels, the porn star. And Epstein thought he had Trump, by the cojones for that. And then number two, Epstein really, really, really hated Trump, but was kind of forced to tell everyone that he knew Trump and they were buddies. Otherwise, they wouldn't give Epstein money. Those appear to be the two big revelations throughout the entire thing. And also that Michael Wolff in his article, as well as a lot of these emails, seem to indicate that Epstein is very well aware that it was Trump who turned over a lot of information over to the FBI on Epstein, leading to a lot of his takedown. So whatever they were really trying to do here, like the big got him, it didn't land whatsoever, and it's not getting any better. So I hope you are ready here in a couple of days for the next big thing that's going to be the walls are closing in on President Trump. We got him. Every single time you hear this, today's going to be the day. Every time they try it.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
Now, in the rest of the media landscape, they're going all in on this. They haven't read the emails. They don't really know where they're going for. They just know it's true, like the Russia collusion. Like deep, deep, deep down, their wife's boyfriend has told them, hey, Trump did it. I know it. It's just like Russia collusion. Here's Sarah Longwell, founder of The Bulwark, over to Tim Miller today.
Rico, I want to present.
One question is, did Trump actively, we know he's covering it up. We know he spent time with women who were victims. Do we know if he participated in the pedophile ring, as it seems like maybe Prince Andrew did? And, well,
did he kill him?
Yeah, did he kill him? Those seem like interesting questions to me about the president of the United States. Why can't I get people to freak? This should be a nuclear bomb. It shouldn't be a Wednesday.
Okay, sweetie. That's enough sugar. Best of luck to you. Now, look, it's not just on this issue. The Democrats are having kind of a mind break moment. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is now doing the I have a girlfriend in Canada, you wouldn't know her, where like she cites unknown sources. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, again, one of the people whom we have a lot of footage of like where she's going and what she's doing. She's a beloved political figure. We get to see pretty much anyone who comes up and talks to her. She is now claiming, there's no evidence of this whatsoever, that Republicans are like coming up to her on the street. AOC doesn't actually walk any streets, but anyway, claiming that Republicans are telling her they really want to be Democrat socialists.
I want to say this right now. I fully welcome Trump voters into our coalition. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but just hear me out. I cannot tell you. It just happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you how many times someone has pulled me aside and said either I was once a big Trump voter and a Trump supporter, and I watched Fox News every day, but then I started to kind of expand my world and where I got information, and now I've learned, and now I've changed, and I'm with you, and I learn from you. Or people who meet me who are really big Republicans now, and they are shocked when they meet me because they're like, you are nothing like I was told you are.
None of this happened. None of this has ever happened whatsoever. The only kind conversations that I've seen her have is usually with Representative Tim Burchett, and says have a good weekend, and then says don't stare at her too long, she'll steal your soul. So I don't think so. Producer Nick?
I think maybe she's thinking of a fake scenario culminating from a bunch of college students who have quote unquote MAGA parents who then go to college and get siloed.
Like I grew up Republican
media.
or like I grew up Catholic kind of a thing.
I used to watch Fox News.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that was the only news channel your parents had on at the breakfast table.
I'm thinking that's very likely. In other news, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, has agreed to do a grandiose apology to President Trump after they maliciously, a week before the 2024 election, released a maliciously edited video of the President Trump January 6th kind of like documentary that they did, in which they cut a whole bunch of stuff out of President Trump's speech to make it sound like he got everyone together and said, let's go kill everyone. And then they ran it. And it was a complete lie, and it was malicious, and it was a week before the election. And even the BBC, 2 people have resigned. It's a major scandal for the organization because the BBC sucks. I know, it's not really surprising. There is no one who has been more offended by the admission that they were wrong, that they did edit it politically, maliciously to try to influence American elections a week before. No one is more upset about the BBC apologizing than Brian Stelter. Brian Stelter, who was so awful that CNN said, no thanks, and then wandered in the wilderness for a while. And then CNN said, you know what, maybe you've learned a lesson. Come on back. And now he is embarrassing the network yet again. Brian Stelter, ladies and gentlemen, is going bonkers over the BBC apologizing for edits. I don't know where you get this kind of brainworm. I can only assume that this is somehow connected with monkeypox. Here you go.
There was speculation the BBC might try to settle with him to make him go away. We've seen Disney and Paramount in the U.S. do that after being sued by Trump. My interpretation of this, though, Max, is that the BBC is signaling it will not immediately fold. Instead, it is willing to fight. If the president does sue, the BBC is willing to fight. The statement says, quote, while the BBC sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited, we strongly disagree there is a basis for a defamation claim. And here's the most important part of that. In order to prove...
Well, what are you supposed to say in an apology? We strongly disagree is defamatory. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I know that he's injured, and I'm sad that he's injured, but also I stabbed him, Your Honor. Like, you don't, no. You don't admit to actually committing in a legal corporate apology document, which is not an actual heartfelt personal, hey, I'm sorry, man. No, that's not how this plays out. Radio crew, we got to send you to commercial. Brian Stelter is going to bake like a potato in the meantime. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Look at this, man. Look at this just tater tot goofball.
defamation, you have to prove malice. You have to prove intent. And the BBC is insisting there was no intent to mislead the public in this case.
Now, this isn't a one-off. He was yelling about this yesterday.
Now, here comes President Trump threatening a lawsuit. And to a lot of people, this looks like an attempt at a shakedown.
Again, the desperation to think that Trump is this is out of nowhere, very, very malicious, terrible. He's clearly trying to revoke licenses. The BBC is in the UK. They cannot influence American political action by maliciously editing something. It doesn't matter who it is. When you're a foreign power, you have to play by very special, very Spectrum-esque kind of rules. Producer Nick.
Is Stelter getting spray tanned?
I don't quite know if it's the
does
lighting.
He have jaundice?
Now, here comes President Trump threatening.
No, across both videos, in comparison to underneath his eyelids.
There was speculation the BBC might try to settle with him to make.
The bags under his eyes are a different color.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm not going to judge a man for bags under his eyes just because,
No, he definitely, deserves to have them with the amount of sleep he loses over, going crazy about Trump.
I will say this, he's wearing the same shirt both days and the same jacket. Again, not an issue. I just, just a matter of point. Also, by lighting. And I say that as a guy who, on the night of our 2024 election coverage, turned bright orange because our studio lights arrived in the middle of the show. Get a flashlight, man. Maybe you can have one of the Chicago public school teachers fly over for free and hold a flashlight for you. Although
I'm just worried about his health. I'll be honest.
I don't think that Chicago public school teachers will do work on their paid personal travel, though. So might have to think up an alternative over on that side. I can't say that I'm confused. I can't say that I'm surprised at any of these particular instances. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's a big Democrat civil war. I hear you. For me, it is more that the discordance. If you've ever worked in any kind of an administrative setting, if you've ever been a teacher, if you've ever been a coach, if you've ever been on any kind of a team, when things start to break down and there's no leadership to pull everyone together, we've been talking about this empty bench on the Democrat side of the aisle for years. It is now getting its share of consequences. AOC, yeah, she may be able to get out there and rally and yell. She does not have the intelligence to be a strong leader. That's not even an insult. That is a moral observation, an objective observation. She does not have the mental ability, from anything that I have seen, in any of her growth in the last couple of years, where, yeah, she's a very charismatic speaker. She doesn't read. She just says things and they are factually wrong. Far past her drinkable air comments and talking about Deloitte, the tax company, spilling chemicals into the rural town of Cleveland.
But man, can she make a margarita?
Yeah, boy can she. Somebody call Paul Pelosi. He's eager to go. He's eager to go driving. So, I got a question, and I will answer really quickly here from Turpin 924 and a channel member. What happened to John Fetterman today of the Senate? I believe he was suffering from a ventricle. Was it a fibrillation? A ventricular fibrillation, and got lightheaded and fell down and scuffed up his face. But he is doing much better now. That's what I know about it. Oh, radio crew's got to come back in. Sorry, I'm running my mouth. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
All right. A lot of news to cover in the remainder of the show. So we're going to get into a little of the good, the bad, and the awkward. So first of all, the good, because we've been talking about fraud and stupid people all evening. I am happy to report this post from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who I saw yesterday at a defense summit in which he said some rather stellar things. You know, rather stellar things like, if you come to this country in a boat to dispense drugs, to harm American people, yeah, we will sink you as quick as we can. In essence, don't get in a boat. Secretary Hegseth yesterday.
Taking the fight on the deterrence front to cartels. My advice to foreign terrorist organizations, do not get in a boat.
Yes, I was the one who started that applause. Why do you ask? Anyway, moving along to today, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, quote, President Trump ordered action and the Department of War is delivering. Today, I am announcing Operation Southern Spear, led by Joint Task Force Southern Spear and Southcom. This mission defends our homeland, removes narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, and secures our homeland from the drugs that are killing our own people. The Western Hemisphere is America's neighborhood. Shout out to the Monroe Doctrine. And we will protect it. Yes, correct. Excellent. This is exactly what I voted for. This is the best thing I've ever heard. It's extremely pro-America. I love it. More. I demand more. I'm telling you, this is exactly what Americans would prefer over a long stint in the Middle East. Absolutely incredible. Now, to move things aside for a minute, there are not a lot of details yet about this. That's also another thing that I'm a fan of because I don't really like hearing what the military is going to do exactly, giving the enemies time to respond before they do it. However, we will be moving towards the Pentagon. Our Pentagon press pass will put us in the briefing room, I believe, in early December of this year. And we're going to get some information on some of these actions for you here in the Tony Kinnett Cast audience and for the Daily Signal. Lastly on this, Secretary Marco Rubio is also not messing around with the tut-tutting and the moral high horses from the European lesbians. Here would be Marco Rubio saying, no thanks.
I don't think that the European Union gets to determine what international law is. They certainly don't get to determine is how the United States defends its national security. The United States is under attack from organized criminal narco-terrorists in our hemisphere, and the president is responding in the defense of our country. I do find it interesting that all these countries want us to send, and supply, for example, nuclear-capable Tomahawk missiles to defend Europe. But when the United States positions aircraft carriers in our hemisphere where we live, somehow that's a problem. So I would say that the United States and this president has made very clear his job is to protect the United States from threats against the United States, and that is what he's doing in this operation.
Yes. Absolutely. The same Europeans who want us to fight and fund everything. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said European lesbians because the straight people in Europe are just as gay. So moving on, I want to make sure that we get the rest of the very important news this evening. You can't cancel me. I've seen what makes you people cheer. All right, let's talk about electric vehicles, AI, and robots. We have a history on this very show of covering the latest and greatest advancements in the wide world that you're told is going to be the end of us all, the death of us all. It's going to save humanity. And we make predictions. So far on Tech Robot Predictions, we are like 4 for 4. When DeepSeek came out and they said the Chinese AI is going to kill us all. And I said, wow, it looks like they probably just copied some AI, just spent a lot of money on building as many servers as they could. And that's going to come out in a few weeks. And it happened. The same with a lot of the other Chinese materials and robotics. Well, they now have a new electric vehicle that's so incredible, so strong and impressive. They tried to, producer Nick, help me out here. They tried to imitate like a Rolls-Royce commercial or a Land Rover commercial. Range Rover commercial.
There's a commercial of a Range Rover, we'll see in a second, driving up a very steep set of steps.
Okay.
Stone steps.
The ultimate test of a vehicle driving up a stone patio. All right, let's check it out. The side-by-side, I believe. So you can see on the right, the Range Rover in the older commercial is scooting up those steps like Tony Hawk with vertigo.
Which are just straight up. There are no plateaus in the steps.
Good
which
point.
Is an important
Straight,
note.
nice 45-degree angle right there. We're talking steps at a Christian school summer camp. The calf destroyers themselves. Meanwhile, the Chinese staircase is a lot more ramp than stairs and has like some nice flats in the middle, and it's struggling.
It fails on the first set of steps that are steeper than...
Oh, no. Oh, he's going to go for it again. He's going to go for it. Will he do it? No. Incredible. Chinese engineering, ladies and gentlemen. Yee-haw. So that would be the first. So again, all of those say the Chinese are about to blow past us and everything. Their cars can't drive upstairs. We have beat up 1992 Ford pickup trucks that are running on used cooking oil and redneck urine that can scale vertical walls. I don't want to hear it.
Every neighborhood in the South has at least 3 pickups that can make that step look like it's nothing.
And if you get one of your hands on one of those government issue pickups that don't have all of the Obama era regulations on them, those things will last for eternity. I mean, there was my grandfather, when he was in Vietnam, told the story of being able to bury an AK-47, a Kalashnikov, in the mud, pull it out, and it would remain firing. American classic automotives were in fact like that. You could leave them out in the weather, you could bury them in the mud, and they would come out swinging. Chinese vehicles can't even drive up hills. So unless they're fighting in exclusively...
Or get rained on.
Oh, yes. There's another video that producer Nick wanted me to share that I'm not able to share tonight, that in order to address the waterproofing issues and overheating and explosive fires causing, what side effects? Death of Chinese electric vehicles from their exploding batteries. They've now invented a battery for the electric cars that shoots the battery out from under the car like a shotgun shell.
AKA a lithium-ion battery cannon.
Yes. So now China has vehicles that will not self-destruct their car. If you're driving next to them, it'll self-destruct your car.
Sitting in traffic.
That's service right there. I mean, you've heard of Uber Eats. And man, I tell you what, Uber explosive. This is the
Campfire on demand.
Canada's assisted suicide program is about to get a lot of improvements.
Speaking of improvements, walking.
Well, we got to send the radio crew out for this evening because my FCC time is, alas, about up. So we'll continue on the live stream because we have to talk about the Russian bots. And no, I'm not talking about Twitter. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. All right. We have another fun bit, not just AI, not just tech in general. We love robots on the show. I mean, we're not like enamored with robots on the show. We have showed like kickboxing, Chinese, rock'em sock'em in real life robots duking it out.
We're going back to the martial arts.
I mean, looking like 2 crippled kids fighting over a milk carton. That's terrible. We're gonna get emails. I'm not sorry, but I feel a little embarrassed. The Russian program is produced their answer to Boston Dynamics. There are a couple of major American companies that are releasing, or at least in heavy development and prototyping, of humanoid robots, because that's what we want. We want the robotic butler.
Tesla, Neo, Boston Dynamics.
Oh, don't put Tesla, Neo, and Boston Dynamics in the same category. The Tesla robot is...
No, they're all 3
those are all 3 humanoid robots. Boston
robots.
Dynamics is run by people who didn't go to Chicago public schools. And then, of course, Tesla, Elon Musk accepts perfection, or he launches you and your family into space. So those are 2 good humanoid robots. Neo, we're going to get to in a second. Russia has come out with their response, and it's incredible. This is their answer to the imperialist West's robotics program.
Another combat sports reference snuck in through this video.
Out on the stage, walks about 3 feet, face plants, and cracks its face panel. Imagine revealing your new exciting robot, and a third guy has to emerge from the stage with a curtain. You got the curtain blanket to go, nothing to see here. Technologia. Hey!
In Russia, robot trips you.
Now, we did get a question when originally we'd showed this clip to a couple of friends before we got it on the show tonight. Was the Rocky theme Gonna Fly Now actually in the presentation, or was that added to make fun of, the Russians bringing out their big fighting robot to Rocky and it falling over? No. That's actually what they brought it out to. We didn't add the Rocky theme in. Here's from another angle. The audio is different. Same themes playing. Here you go. He's stepping.
I love the compression on the speakers as well. The Soviet era music.
Boom. I love the flying high now comes in as he's face planting. G.I. Joe bot, he's not, I'm afraid. So amazing stuff. One last little bit of fun here on the robotics angle before we say das vidanya for the evening. Neo. We talked about the Neo robot. The Neo, $20,000 can get you your very own robotic servant in the house. The Wall Street Journal had done this full thing where they showed all the things he can do, and they did a little bit of real reporting, kind of, in which they showed he really struggles to open the dishwasher.
You got this, Neo. You got it.
Or to close the dishwasher and open it. Yeah, that's worth 20 grand right there. He can load and unload a dishwasher in 4 to 6 weeks. Almost. Almost.
Pulling the
Nope.
one of those to the dishwasher.
Okay, so you think, well, I don't really think that's worth $20,000 or a $500 per month subscription service. We did not know this at the time. Since we have watched this information came to us via Moist Critical or Charlie over on YouTube, citing a couple of other investigatory YouTubers and journalists on the interwebs. That's not AI. That Neo robot, that's not AI. That's not actually something someone has programmed with AI that would learn your house and then slowly get to the point where it could learn to complete tasks. No. In another room, there is a dude with a VR headset and controllers that is trying to do chores in their house and doing it very, very poorly. Oh my gosh. So first of all, major scam, because they don't present it that way. They're saying, well, someday hopefully we'll have AI that can do this. So you could pay $20,000 to have some dude from an Indian call center walk around your house with cameras and microphones and do really bad chores that take forever. So if you've ever wanted to be like recorded when you're naked by some dude in a call center in India, it only costs you 20 grand a month to have the company do it for you. Exciting times are here, man. It's
That's not even my biggest concern. How soon is it going to be when they have somebody that they outsource here working alongside people there? You know, call centers are quite common there. Going and using the robot to unlock your home to then come home instead of a clean home, an empty home.
The robot butler lets in the criminals to loot your house. Wow, I had not thought of that angle. I mean, guys, there are many people right now who are trying to convince you. We go through this talk every time we talk about AI and tech, but I really mean this. Hear me out for just a moment. When Microsoft Office came out in the mid-90s, it was an incredible product. A really great, one of the best commercials produced of all time is about Microsoft Excel and creating an entire presentation automatically in like 60 seconds and a ride up the elevator. It's very well done. There were concerns it was going to ruin the corporate world. And what we had, there was even a lawsuit that was filed that it was going to ruin corporate America to have this software that did everything for you, and it was going to ruin all of these jobs. Bill Clinton even talked about it negatively because it was the kind of the buggy whip syndrome. Once automobiles came around, there was no need for buggies, horse-drawn carriages anymore. The buggy whip manufacturers are going to go out of business. And then Microsoft Office just became a tool that was used in the office. You didn't need to hire the spell checker at your company because there were insurance companies and medical companies that did, in fact, that's true. Ball State University employed 3 spell checkers up through 99. That is absolutely true.
No apologies. I read a comment that said waking up to the robot holding a hammer above your head in the middle of the night.
The horror movies are going to be awful and hilarious about Neo robots. Black Mirror's not ready. So anyway.
Just impotently hitting you with a hammer.
Here's the case. Here's the point that I'm making. AI is just like that. It is an improvement. It will do some cool things. AI is not going to magically become real life. It's not going to suddenly develop a soul and creativity. AI is great at mimicking. And even now we're finding it's not really so good at that because there are memory constraints. There are searching through that memory constraint. We're making progress, sure. But the idea that all of this is going to come through and take over the world and it's going to be used to keep track of all of you and you're all going to die and it's going to be the worst thing in the world. Nah. And there are 2 reasons that you should feel comforted. Reason number 1 is that the technology is just not there. It's getting better, but I mean, it's not getting better in the way that you think of, like us discovering antibiotics made medicine better in the world. No. What I'm talking about is that it's getting like marginally better in its own way. Like every year there's a new model of the phone that comes out and it's like slightly better than the last one, but like it's, you know, not doing absolutely everything for me as much as I would perhaps enjoy that. Number two, the reason you don't need to be worried and concerned about the mass nonsense that consistently is positioned as this is going to be made to ruin your life and rule over you. They can't even get away with mortgage fraud. They can't even get away with listing the word secondary instead of primary on their freaking mortgage applications. We knew when Randy Weingarten was colluding with the Centers for Disease Control about keeping the schools closed within 12 hours. We knew about Operation Arctic Frost, the very first instances that we had that this was going on, that these investigations were ordered, was 24 hours after the initial order went out. You just needed a group in power who were able to then go and then verify it. People are really bad at keeping secrets like that. Now, sometimes they get through. But as for our best efforts in robot overlordship, nah. No. I will say this. Quit answering social media direct messages as though that's totally a real person from Nigeria offering you money. Quit doing that. Don't give people money over the phone or the internet. Stop it. Don't do that. That you should stop. That is another tale for another time. You have a wonderful evening. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll read your emails that are angry. And to any of those offended by the jokes this evening, send them to us via postal mail. We'll put them on the wall behind us. All of your meanest insults. For a little moral encouragement. Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. Take care.